Hello and welcome to the Empire State Trail Weekly Update, a look at the latest news from across the Erie Canalway and Empire State Trail. And this is the update for May 24th to May 30th, 2026. And looking outside this soggy Sunday morning on Memorial Day weekend, it's soggy. And again, I am not a weatherman, but I'm like looking at these maps to see what happened with the latest rainfall in the past 24 hours. And we can see that a bulk of the rain has been in this corridor here along the Empire State Trail, Canalway Trail, from the Syracuse to the west. And what that's going to mean for anybody who's riding the trail, it seems like the Clyde River is the most flood-prone area that affects the trail. So if you're out in the Lyons, Newark area, and you come across the water, just be aware, if you can't see bottom, and you see any type of movement, don't ride through it. I'm assuming if the bank washes out, you're going to see a lot of flow going across the trail, but there could be sinkholes. There's been sinkholes popping up, and so just be careful when you're riding through those areas of water, standing water along the trail. That's just your public service announcement for this week. So let's take a look at trail closures. And over here at the Empire State Trail.newyork.gov map or site, I don't see anything new listed here. Let's check out the Cycle the Canalway Trail from PTNY. And I'm looking at the caution dots here, and I don't see anything new. Let's zoom in. So again, Ralph Wilson, LaSalle Park here in Buffalo. The trail closure here in Rochester, out in the western Rochester area where they're doing some trail resurfacing. And they have a couple detours in there you have to go around. Be careful of that. What are they listing here? This is the culvert, I think. This is the end of June. You have the Durhamville Aqueduct being repaired. You have some trail work here in the Rome area. So that looks to be it on trail closures. So let's move on to some trail maintenance issues. I snapped this picture from my car. This is just west of Montezuma along Route 31. And it's a pretty old blaze here. And I've been saying to the state, or anybody who will listen, I can't get a hold of anybody at the state who will answer me, but can we get the new blazes? This is what they announced last year at the Greenways conference. They were showing this, and you're seeing this on a lot more of the branding that they're doing for the Canalway Trail. And I said, will it be possible for us to get these? And I would put the darn things up. But it breaks all kinds of union rules, I think, from a DOT perspective. I think the union guys would be upset if we were out there installing our own signs. And so I've been, saying to people, how do we make this happen? How do we get new signage from the state, regardless of who puts it up? And somebody said to me, somebody who's in the know said, state has no more money for trail signage. And they want it to be updated. They want it to be co-branded. They want it to, they want everything to be nice and new, but they just don't have the money to do it. And so now they're relying on individual municipalities, entities, I guess trail groups, to produce and install the signs. Now, one of the questions I have, installing signs on a off-road section of trail is fine. But again, like I said, if I start installing signs on Route 31 post here, is that going to run afoul of DOT union guys? So, and then, this person said you would be able to apply for funding to get these new signs from a canal tourism infrastructure grant. And this brings up several issues because in areas where the state doesn't own the trail, they're leaving it up to the municipalities to upkeep the trail. And some of these places in the center part of the state, the Cayuga County, Onondaga County, Wayne County, just don't have money in their budgets to be doing trail work. They don't have the money in their budgets to be doing highway work. So when it comes to just something simple like replacing the sign, or something major like going through and doing a trail rehab, they just don't have it, and you're not going to see it. And, one of these reasons is small county and local governments don't have grant writers on staff. They use hired guns. They hire some grant writing company, and they say, here's our list of priorities, roads, new water lines, stuff. And these hired guns, they scan, the grants as they come out, and they pick and choose and say, okay, here's a grant that I think you're suitable for. Let me write the grant. You guys can swing the match. So then they have to put the match into their budget. And, regardless if they get the grant or don't get the grant, they still have to pay the grant writer. They're not doing that for free. They're not doing it on speculation. So everybody's very cautious about doing that. Meanwhile, in areas, out west, Buffalo County or Erie County, maybe Schenectady County, Colony, places like that, they have grant writers on staff, usually in the planning department. And they can go out and actively look for these grants. It doesn't cost them any more to do that. They can administer the grants, or in case of Canal Corp, of course, they own the trail and are responsible. And this is going to be a growing issue if the state doesn't figure out how to help these smaller communities and counties keep up with the trail maintenance. And, building out the trail is sexy. Everybody loves this. Everybody loves to go out there and snip the ribbon and show, hey, we've built this trail. But they need to be looking at the communities and saying, okay, maintenance is not sexy, but we know you guys need help. Here's an easy way to get help. And if they leave it up to the locals, the local governments, and they say, hey, we built the trail. You signed an agreement. You're responsible for the trail for the next 25 years. You're going to have a trail that's suitable for ATVs in a few years, where these guys just can't keep up with it. So that's my little rant on trail maintenance. If you have other ideas, if you have other thoughts, please let me know. Drop a comment in the likes or whatever. Drop a comment below and like the video and share it or whatever. That's just my little rant on the whole situation. So in the news, just so happens this came up. City of Syracuse names William Sullivan Trails Coordinator. And this young man here has a responsibility for all the trails, walking trails, not just Erie Canal Path, but all the trails. And, he's charged with maintaining and revitalizing trailways. And he's going to have a challenge. Anybody who pays attention to politics, the minute you say you're going to spend money on a trail and not filling potholes in the roads, people are going to be up in arms, and the spam bots are going to be coming out in force and everything else. So, but anyway, here we go. Here's another instance where the city has the capacity to have somebody on staff who can look at these issues. And here's the next story that came up was Wayne County passes canal trail funding. And I've read the story a couple times, and it leads with the headline, the Erie Canalway Trail might be making its way into eastern half of Wayne County after all. And then after reading the story, I couldn't understand what they were saying. If they had the money, if they didn't have the money, seems like people are going back and forth. Again, why spend money on trails? We need to spend money on, filling potholes in roads and whatnot. And, the emphasis is the longest unfinished section of trail is between Newark and Savannah. That's in Wayne County. So they need to work on it. Well, it's, again, if this is the total funding, if the $1.2 million grant, if they stretch it with another, it looks like that's a total, that's going to build about a mile of trail. So they're up against it. They're mentioning in here that they hope to do matching funds. You know, they put the highway guys out there to build some trail. Apparently, that wasn't the case. They found out that didn't work. They had to have cash. So anyway, just another one of these stressors on the canal trail, and you know what local company or what local communities have to do to make it happen. So let's take a look at the calendar. So today was the Buffalo Marathon. Next weekend is the Weedsport Fireman Field Days. So if you're going to be in the Weedsport area 28, 29, or 30th, you're going to be seeing a lot of congestion around the Fireman Field Days, which is right here. And here's the Empire State Trail comes through. So this is all parking lots. So there's a lot of traffic, especially if it's a nice weekend. You're going to have a lot of traffic in this area. There is another way around. If you're coming from the west by the Arby's, the old canal goes through here, and it's a grass and single track, but it's perfectly passable. You can kind of shortcut that whole area. Just go through here, go behind the Arby's, and take the trail. The trail is very evident. Take it out, and then you can just continue on your way. And if you're coming from the east, the other way works out also. So you can avoid this here. You still have this bad intersection here, but just use a little caution getting around that. And then we start getting into June. We got Fairport Canal Days. And then the Seneca Chief leaves on the 6th and starts heading west. And here's the schedule. They've been posting that schedule. You're going to want to keep, if you're looking forward to seeing the pack-a-boat as it's going through, you're going to want to keep an eye out on their website or their Facebook page because, these heavy rains and the high waters could be delaying things. On the 13th, the Chittenango Landing Floating Boat, or whatever it's called here. Let me see. It's Boat Floating Fest. So that'll probably have some congestion in the Chittenango area. And that's it for all the festivals I could find that will impact trail usage. Again, there are all kinds of activities going on. I'm just looking for ones that might impact your trip down the trail. And that's it for this Empire State Trail Weekly. Please note that this is an independent weekly update and is not affiliated with New York State, the Canal Corporation, or any official trail agency. Information is based on publicly available sources and rider reports. And remember to give this a like and subscribe. Send along your comments, send along your questions. And we will see you next week.